Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten and with me is Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage. Andrew, how you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back on. Long time no talk. I think we almost went 12 hours without seeing each other this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday at Target Center, not the most fun game in the world, although just glad to be inside. I just looked up the temperature, negative 18, and it was just negative 20 like an hour ago. So it is bitterly cold. I don't know if the Wolves are planning to practice today, but certainly with the weather and with the strike going around with the ice protests, I don't think they were ever going to practice today. But certainly for you and me who might have gone to that practice, we don't mind.
Yeah, this was one of the few times where they send out the email saying if they have media availability, and I saw that they didn't. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yep. No one wants to be out there. And at times it feels like no one wants to try go and win a basketball game. The Wolves have lost 4 in a row. The first 2 I think were fair. I actually felt like pretty solid after the first 2. They almost beat the Rockets without Ant, and Ant almost beat the Spurs by himself without Rudy or Nas. That's the Spurs game, especially on the second night of a back-to-back where there's only 22 and a half hours between games. They almost come back, can't quite close it out, whatever. But you kind of lose the benefit of the doubt on the first 2 losses when you throw up 2 stinkers back to back. They lose to the Jazz as I think 12-point favorites, and then they lose to the Bulls as 9-point favorites. Just 2 like unacceptable performances. And I wanted to start with the Utah game because I actually kind of felt like it was more informative. The defense was just atrocious, like just not even close to good enough. And it's just become I tweeted after this game is like, this is just who the Wolves are at this point. And I think maybe if that's misinterpreted, people might feel like that I think they're terrible. No, I think they're really good. I still think they have like the 3rd best chance to win the title in the league.
Yeah.
But they're costing themselves big time with performances like this where they're clearly not playing. They have 2 different gears that they at sometimes show in the course of a single game. Over the course of the week, you see both of them. And I'm beginning to wonder if like this, we'll talk about the seeding and what that's possibly cost them like in the standings. But even regardless of that, like I don't know if a team with this level of inconsistency can win more than they've won 2 playoff series each of the last 2. I don't think a team with this level of inconsistency in the regular season even can win 3 or 4 straight playoff series.
Yeah, I mean, it's the seeding I think is important because we talked about it yesterday at shoot around of just like if you are a 7 seed, you're setting yourself up for a potential of like San Antonio, then Denver, then OKC for a route to get to the finals. And then when you get to the finals, like I know the East is kind of a joke this year, but like it's another playoff series in the finals, and that might be the easiest one out of the group. Like it just you need to get a good seed so that you at least have one playoff series that isn't going to go 7 games, which I think, last season they did a good job navigating the frustrating, annoying spot they put themselves in by like taking care of LA and Golden State relatively quickly. But like if you're going into a playoff run and you have to play like 25 games to get a ring, that's generally doesn't work out very well for teams. Like they run out of gas, someone gets hurt. When you start playing every other day for 3 weeks, I mean, it's not realistic. And I think you're right. At this point, if they get into the playoffs, let's say as a 6 seed, like you're playing the Nuggets in round 1, then you're probably playing the Spurs in round 2, and then you're playing the freaking Oklahoma City Thunder. Like they're not going to win 3 playoff series, especially against that run. I do agree with you. Like I think this is, going back to last year, going back 2 years ago, even to like the Cat of it all. Like when he had the hamstring injury and the Wolves were really good, they did this. I mean, really the last time they didn't just kind of have that, feathering of the gas pedal, where some games they're pedal to the metal, other games they kind of let their foot off of it. Honestly, the last time they didn't have that was maybe like the first Gobert year, and they played with a ton of effort, but they just weren't really that good that season. I wish I had an answer. Like I have guesses. I do think, you look at this team, and I think Ant is a big culprit of this. I think, Jaden as well, I don't think gets to go without blame. Like his defense this season for a guy that wants to make the all defensive team is waxed and waned. And then Julius has some of the worst defensive performances out there at times. And I think when you're top three guys outside of Rudy, I think Rudy's probably the third or second best player on this team, but like when three of your top four guys just aren't putting forth a consistent like mentality, I think it just bleeds into the rest of the team. And then you see Bones have a bad game, you see Nas not focusing on defense as much, and then you have these games. And I mean, I don't know what your take is, but it doesn't really seem to bother them that much. Like, sure, they were upset in the locker room, but it just is kind of like another loss where, Ant after the game is like, if I just made more shots, we win this game. And it's like, no, if you just closed out on a 3, we win this game. Like, it's not all about making shots.
Yeah, So let's first take the seeding point. So if the season ends today, they are the 7th seed. Let's just assume. Let's assume they make the playoffs as like they win that first playoff game and they're the 7th seed. Their path of the finals would be at Spurs, at Nuggets, at Thunder.
Yeah,
they're just not making the finals like that.
No,
they're not. They are not. And so I don't know what you got to get up to. If you get up to 4, which they're only a half game back of right now, and honestly, we'll talk about this later. I would. That's what to me is actually their most likely seed is 4. And especially if you want to just add in 4 and 5, I'm fairly confident that's where they'll end up. But like, I look at the teams ahead of them, and there's no excuse for this team not to be the 2 seed.
Yeah,
I felt that before the season, and kind of said I'm more couched as top 3, and certainly still feel that right now. Everyone above them has had much worse injury luck than they have.
Mhm.
I guess the one team that has not had worse injury luck is the Phoenix Suns, but like, come on. You're below the Suns. Like, come on. The Lakers have missed Luka, LeBron, and Reeves all at some point.
Mhm.
The Rockets, their starting point guard was hurt before the season started. The Nuggets are winning games despite, they've been playing a cupcake schedule. Jokic has been out, but still they're winning games without Jokic. Murray has missed time. Gordon, every single key player has missed time for them. And the Spurs, Wemby has been in and out in the lineup. Certainly has played fewer games and minutes than Ant. Like, at a certain point, this team will turn it on. They will win games. They will, as unsurprising as this stretch has been of them kind of screwing around with games, the rebound to playing excellent basketball will be equally as unsurprising.
Yep.
Like, I'm sorry, like at this point, you can't be surprised by either extreme. That's just who this team is at this point. But like, my bigger point is they clearly don't take games like the Bulls and the Jazz seriously. They just don't. And every team, I agree with people that would say every team does this. And to a certain extent, yes. Every team is not going to bring the same level of effort, but the Wolves, as far as like a title contender, are the worst with it by far. And I just think, if and when the Wolves win the title, that will be largely gone, largely non-existent, or will recede into the background. And I don't think you don't have to be X seed to win the title. I think you used to in the past. You basically had to be like the 1 or 2 seed. I think you can still especially given how tight the Western Conference is. It's not like if they end up the 5 seed, I'm not going to we'll see how they play to get there. But I just think there's like a level of regular season skill that translates to the postseason, even while admitting that they're basically two different basketball leagues. And I'm just kind of coming back. What is their excuse to not winning games at the same level of the Spurs and Nuggets? There isn't. They don't have a good excuse. And I think that's what's almost most frustrating to me, is that if they played with the proper level of care, it's not that you got to. This last two Jazz and Bulls games would have taken so little effort to just get them over the finish line. You could see it. Like, they take a big lead and then get let off the hook. Even late in the game, they take a 6-point lead, they take a 4-point lead, and immediately lets off the gas. Like, you can't do that. And as I stare at the standings, the opportunity for them to get, like last year, the perfect run to the Western Conference Finals was there. It was right in front of them. If you get up to the top 3 with all of Denver's injuries, and you could have passed them and should have passed them. Why can't the Wolves not being able to stay ahead of the standings of a team ravaged by injuries is basically unexcusable to me. And again, the season is not over, but they potentially cost themselves a big opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's my takeaway, is just the opportunity cost of just you just lock in and you win that Sacramento game, and you the one where they blew it at the end. You win the Phoenix game that you blew at the end, and you win one of these, and you're tied for the 2 seed. It's just, I do agree with you. It seems like it happens with the Wolves more, and I see a lot of kind of pushback from some people of oh, it's a maturity issue. It's Randall's in his 30s, Ant's in his 6th season, Jaden's in his 6th season, Nas is in his 7th season. They have Mike on this team. Dante's a veteran, Rudy's a veteran. It's not a maturity. Look at the Spurs. I was looking down at my phone here, and the Spurs
and Thunder are younger than they are. That's not a good reason.
I was going to say the Spurs had a 10-day stretch from December 27th to January 6th, where they lost to the Jazz, the Blazers, the Grizzlies, and the Cavs. Lost 4 out of 6. Every other loss that they've had this year is to a playoff team. They had one bad stretch. Every other loss is to a playoff team. And you look against the bad teams, 13-point win over the Jazz, 17-point win over the Jazz. 26-point win over the Wizards, 11-point win over the Wizards. There isn't close games in a lot of these cases. And it's the Spurs are super young. Yes, they have De'Aaron Fox and Keldon Johnson, who are great veterans. We have Dante DiVincenzo and Rudy Gobert, who are great veterans. You look at the Thunder, they're objectively a pretty young team too, especially with all of the injuries that they're dealing with. Cason Wallace in for Caruso makes them a younger team. Denver, obviously not a young team, but it seems like it's a Wolves specific issue where they are either in these close games or they lose these games. And at the end of the day, you're right. It's the opportunity lost of you guys could have just made it easier for yourselves in the future. But I also think this Wolves team just needs to do things the hard way for some reason. We saw it last year where they put themselves in a bind to need to be the best team to finish the season. You look at it a couple years ago, they put themselves in a bind to need to come back against the Nuggets in the playoffs. I do think this team almost needs that real time pressure where it's if you lose, everything's over, for them to be at their best, or all of the eyes on them to be at their best. And I'm not going to be surprised when they rattle off 13 straight wins, because we know it's going to happen. I'm not going to be surprised when they go out and beat the Warriors by 30 on Saturday. This is really a sticking point for me is just like, I wish I knew why. Because like I said, like they have veterans. Rudy comes locked in almost every game. Dante's locked in almost every game. Mike, bless his heart, tries every single game. Like they have dudes in their rotation that try to set the tone. Finch, I promise you, Finch isn't just sitting here going ho hum in the locker room. They have veteran players on the bench. They have a veteran coaching staff. Like, why is it that Ant, Jaden, Julius threesome just can't seem to get it to click into gear unless they need to? Which all of them say the right thing, right? All of them, like, if you take them for their words, like, they understand the problem, but it just doesn't seem to get better, which that's where I get kind of at a loss of like, what is a trade really going to do? Like, if they were to trade and bring in Kobe White, like, what's that actually going to do? Like, they're still going to have these moments because if Ant isn't locked in on defense and Jaden isn't playing good defense, the whole thing falls off a cliff. If they fire Finch and bring in Mike Malone, like, what's that actually going to do? If it's a leadership kind of problem at the root of it, which I don't know. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's felt like so many times this season, because I think this kind of weirdly they've been winning these a lot of these
Yeah.
prior to the past two games. They've been winning a lot of these against bad teams, but I think they've been winning them in really poor performances. I think back to the two games in New Orleans. There's a lot of other games where or like it's a game against the beat up Lakers where like their record of the team you're playing isn't bad, but like they treat it as a bad team because all the good players are out. Um, I think you mentioned like just like needing to fall behind before they can kick into the gear. That is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of if and when they win the title, that will not happen anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just think you have to have a level of respect for this league, for both bad teams, good teams. Like you have to keep going. You can't get too high on your horse. I think they might have been able to beat Dallas if they had taken out the Nuggets in what it should have been 5 or 6 games. Mm-hmm. I think back to games 3 and 4 of the Western Conference Finals and the defensive intensity that they played from the jump. And in game 3, I think stands out when you think about game 4, where they went right back to just playing, and they almost could have, should have won game 4 too. It's not like they played poorly in game 4, but like whatever that game 3 intensity was, they were not able to bottle it up and take it to game 4. And like that is that is why I think this is important. That's why I think playing with consistency in the regular season is important, because it matters. I just think it does. And again, I think this team can and will turn it on. I will not be surprised when they are the 4 seed, when they beat, let's say, the Rockets at the 5 seed, and they're like tied 2-2 with the Thunder in the second round. I think that's more than possible. But I continue to believe that like this has to be figured out, that like this, whatever the moodiness, all of it has to be figured out for this team to win the title. And like you mentioned, I don't know how to do that. And I don't think a trade is going to do it. Certainly, I don't think a coach firing mid-season. I mean, I think after the season, every coach, you should reevaluate where you are with your coach. So at the end of the season, we'll have that conversation. But like mid-season, that's not going to help anything.
Yeah.
The Nuggets didn't like rebound from their season because it seems like they made the right decision. But like, there's not much you can do to help. And it's almost kind of like them making the West Finals as the 6th seed might have been like the worst thing possible. And I say that facetiously, but like, I think that's a big thing. I do think that's a big thing, that like the same reason I have confidence that they can turn this around, because they've done it in the past, might be the same reason that this keeps happening, because maybe in either subconsciously or in the front of their mind, like they might just think, well, who cares? We can just make the 6th seed and we'll go on the same run. And I just don't think that's as plausible to do this year.
I agree. Like, I don't think it's as plausible. And we've talked about it. Like, the seeding, I think, matters. I mean, there is like, I think you see teams at like the end of their dynasty or like championship windows kind of do this more. Like Golden State, the year they won it as like a 7 seed, they just kind of like wandered into the playoffs and then went on this run. I mean, Cleveland, like, yes, you have LeBron. Yes, they were the 1 seed, but like those late Cleveland LeBron teams would drop weird games. But like you have LeBron, Kevin Love, and Kyrie. Like you're gonna make a run at some point. It's just weird because it's almost like I said it yesterday. It's almost like the Wolves have championship fatigue. Like, yeah, we've been there, done that. We know how to get to that place when they haven't really gotten to that place. So it is just this weird dynamic. And you know, I again, like I'm sure we can talk about trades a little bit, but like the people on Twitter who are like everybody but Ant and Jaden needs to be traded, and it's like I kind of look at that as like that those two might be the root of this problem, and like they're not young players anymore. I am fully in belief of like, you know, maturity you get as you age and like experience life and stuff like that, and like Lord knows Ant and Jaden have experienced enough like bad things go on in their life. So I'm not saying they lack like life experience, but there's a reason why a lot of NBA players don't really hit their like mental prime until 28, 29, 30 years. And I mean, I hate to say they're still a couple years away from winning a championship, but it certainly seems like they're a couple years away from winning a championship. I mean, this does need to get straightened out at some point. And like, again, bad losses are going to happen. Like you can look at Oklahoma City. They've had bad losses this year. You can look at the Spurs. I just named a 10-day stretch where they had 4 losses, 3 of them being bad losses. Like I do think this happens to every team. It's just not every team is a championship contender. So I do think you need to see and hold them to a little bit different standard. I think what's the most frustrating, like internally for me, is like the reason they're a championship team is because Ant is one of the 7 best players in the league. He has unbelievable greatness. Like there are other players in the league, like Donovan Mitchell, right? Multi-time All-Star, great player, not on Ant's level. Like Ant gives you that chance. But then I think we see in the Bulls game where Ant takes that chance away from you, where 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes, not playing very well on defense, allows that last second 3, which is kind of like the epitome, not last second, but brings it back within 1-3, which is kind of the epitome of it. Just runs 2 straight ISO plays at the end of the game where he hucks a shot up without a pass on it even. And it's like Ant just kind of sabotaged that game, which again, what do you do? Like, I think that's the hardest question for this coaching staff to answer, because if you bench Ant, let's say Ant's defense in the fourth, he gives up that 3 and Finch benches him, you have no chance. And then if you win the game and you bench Ant, like you look like a genius. Let's say they lose the game still, then you're like, that's almost like a fireable offense of benching your all-world player with 60 seconds left. But arguably that might have been the best case scenario for this team if they would have just benched him, because he gives up that 3 and then takes 2 brick threes and it's over. So I don't know what to say to fix that, except for he just maybe 2 or 3 years from now he doesn't do that anymore.
I don't think the coach can fix it.
Yeah.
I know it's on the players. I think we can point out things that Finch can and should do better. We can point out like no one on this roster or coaching staff like is without blame for sure, or without credit. Like obviously they're still like on pace to hit their over and wins. So like it's not to say they're terrible, but like it's on the players.
Yeah.
Like they need to be the ones that take games more seriously against bad teams. They need to be the ones to find that consistency of performance, because it's just too variable right now. And that's a good transition to the Bulls game. You kind of broke down these plays, but I kind of wanted to go through them in order.
Yeah.
So Jaden hits a 3-pointer to go up 4 with about a minute and a half left. And immediately in the next possession, I sent it out, and I think a lot of people have hung on this possession. Ant is watching the ball, kind of loses track of his man, the best scorer. He's guarding the best scorer on the Bulls. And he's just a simple pass to the corner, and Kobe White hits the 3 to cut it to 1, which when you're up 4, giving up a 3 is really hurtful because now you have to hit a 3 to push it to 2 possessions. Like if you would have overhelped and Kobe White goes by him for a layup, that's not nearly as hurtful.
I want to point out after the game, he was like, I didn't think Josh Giddey could make that pass. That was an amazing pass, basically. And it's like, not really.
Yeah,
that's a pass that every guard that's a pass that Ant makes 30 times a game. Like, he didn't contest, he didn't close out hard, he didn't have his hands up, he was out of position. It was just terrible. And like, I am sure on film rewatch today or tomorrow, whenever they do it, he is going to get obliterated for that. But even his answer to it was just like, man, just say you were ball watching. Like, just be honest with us, because everyone knows what happened. You were ball watching.
Yeah, and I didn't really enjoy his answers after the game on that, but also kind of falls into the what do you want him to say category. Yep. You know, if he came out like what I would have preferred him to do is just make the proper defensive play.
Yeah,
and that is like the biggest. They need more from Anthony Edwards on defense. Yep. He's not close to good enough. And you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. I agree with you. Like, Ant has the higher ceiling. Ant is the quote unquote better player. In a regular season setting, Donovan Mitchell right now is a more valuable player than Anthony Edwards. He is more likely to generate regular season wins than Ant for a number of reasons. He's just more consistent.
Yep.
More consistently plays offense, and it's really defense. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't watch enough Cavs, but like, this is a perfect example of where they need more from Ant.
I think with Mitchell, the consistency is it. Like, he is not as good of a defender as Ant, but he is consistently average. And I think when you're consistently average, you can scheme around that, and you can like have Evan Mobley help. You can make like different adjustments. Ant goes from all-world defender at times to unplayable on defense. And like, for a coaching staff, like, how do you plan for that? Like, you don't know. It's like, in that position, having Ant on Kobe White and Jaden on Giddey is the right play. And if Ant is playing at his all-world level, that pass gets picked off, that he contests it in the corner, and Kobe White has to force it out. Like, it ends completely different. But like, to your Donovan Mitchell point, Mitchell's doesn't have that high of a ceiling on defense, so he's just going to consistently be normal, which I feel like a lot of coaches in the league in the regular season would rather have somebody that's just consistently normal. We see it with Mike all the time. Mike is going to get cooked, but he's going to funnel the guy to Rudy. Mike is going to make mistakes, but they're very normal mistakes. They're not like Rob just jump passing it into the other team. Like, I think coaches prefer the guy that's just going to be consistently average. But continue, because we've spent a lot of time on Ant's effort on that 3.
I think it's fair to focus on that because it cost them the game. Yep. I think the Wolves win that game if Ant plays half decent defense. And like you mentioned, it's not that we need him to be like this all NBA defender. I don't like, just be consistent with it. Like, have like, the Utah game was brutal from everyone, but like brutal from him too. He got back cut, I think, like 3 or 4 times. Like, so did everyone. But
there was one with like 7 minutes left. I think it was either an inbound or right off of a side inbound where he gets back cut by Keontae, and he just like looks back at Rudy like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, Ant, you got back cut. You can't be mad at Rudy for that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's part of it, is that like they just feel like, well, so what? My guy got past me. Rudy's down there, and they've like Finch has talked about like that can't be the perimeter containment in these last few games have just been so brutally atrocious, and it's costing them games. But after that Kobe White 3, Ant dribbles the air out of the possession. Well, I think let's see if I can remember this sequence.
It was lovely Julius Randle bad pass turnover.
And I think that play could have easily gone. Not that they ruled that as like the passer. Ant needed it. Ant was nonchalant with receiving the pass. Yep. Like he tried to one-hand it and should have focused more on receiving it. So the Wolves do get a stop on the other end after that brutal turnover, and then Ant throws this full court pass to Jaden and it's too high, and Jaden luckily like recovers it, but then Jaden is dribbling the ball and gets the ball poked away, and it goes off his leg for another turnover. And like that was when I thought, oh, they're gonna lose this game.
Which I will say,
despite
that pass should have never happened. Like the Randall pass, I think was and Ant kind of messed it up. Like I do give Jaden a little bit of a pass on that turnover, pun intended, because like he had to like sky for that, contain it, and then put it on the deck for like a second and got it poked out. But like you're absolutely right. Like when that turnover happened, I was like, oh, this one's going to be another one of these. Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, and then the go-ahead layup was Dante's coming around the screen, guarding Trey Jones. He's behind the play. Again, screen navigation has not been great recently. I kind of don't understand why they're like going above these screens in this setting. I don't like on the inbound, like if Trey Jones nails a 3-pointer 5 feet behind the 3-point line and they beat you that way, that's not so, like, I don't get why you're trying to go above the screen and you're trailing the play. Maybe I don't understand basketball enough. I'm certainly like willing to say that like maybe I don't have the right.
I think a lot of it is reliance on Rudy. Like go over the screen and Rudy will protect the rim, and then if Trey Jones takes a pull up midi, you're fine with. The issue is Dante overcommits to take away like the 3. Ant is in that mid-range spot and just is kind of a traffic cone as Trey drives.
Ant doesn't help enough.
And then Rudy isn't at the rim because it was like a guard kind of action. So like I think when Rudy's at the rim,
it was Vucevic as the center.
Right. Like if Rudy's at the rim, I think it makes sense. But like when anyone else gets in the action, it's just like Ant doesn't help. So then it's just a layup. Like it just is. Which again, that's gonna the film session for Ant is gonna suck today.
Yeah, and I'm sure it sucked after the Jazz game too. And the Wolves struggle not because of Rudy, but because Rudy by the rim is such a force for this defense. When they play a team that has a 3-point shooting center, and the Bulls play one of those basically the entire time with Jalen Smith, I believe is the other name.
And Vuce.
Yeah, Jalen Smith. They play one of Vucevic or Smith at the center the entire game. There isn't anyone for Rudy to lurk off of. But yeah, so Trey Jones comes around the screen and Dante's behind the plate. Ant needs to be if they just simply switch that, and Ant properly picks up Trey Jones and Dante switches the inbounder, they are in defensive position.
Yep.
I don't know if that's part of the game plan, but like if it's not, Ant totally messed that one up as well. And then this is the one where they're down 1. Ant dribbles the air out of the ball, takes a terrible step back 3.
Yep.
The Wolves can't find the rebound. They foul. And then less blame for Ant, but they're down 3 the next possession, and Ant misses basically the same shot he got in Denver. That one, I'm not like,
but
it
like
just
there's
happened.
9
he didn't
seconds
make it, so that
left.
one's
Like you have enough time to.
Yeah, no, I'm
like I understand the like get a quick shot off so you can foul and maybe have a second chance at it. But like
they got a good look. I'm not worried about the game time shot. Like that was a solid enough look. But like the Ant has been so amazing in the clutch this year. And it's not just been hitting tough shots. It's been getting good looks, like at the end of the San Antonio game. And for at least one game, it went right back to like the terrible clutch time step back 3s. And I don't know, it's just one game, obviously, but like that's the reason why they've been able to win as many games as they have, honestly, is because they have been winning close games through Ant. And so if like that's going to go downhill too. Yeah, it was a brutal end of game stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like that second to last three. I wish I knew what Finch actually called, because I'm willing to guarantee he didn't call just a straight top of the 3-point line ISO with no action. Like I just like Finch will always fall on the sword, and he'll always be the guy that's like, yeah, rabble, I got to do better. But it's like, I wish you could just get truth serum in him once, where he could be like, yeah, I told Ant to do like a 2-man game with Rudy and try and get to the rim. And just pulled up for 3. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He waved off the screenshot. Like, we don't know that, but like, Finch is too good of a coach to just be like, yep, Ant, go cook. And then the inbound, I agree. Like, it was a better look for Ant, but it's just like, I wish 9 seconds left. I wish they would just like trust in the process of like, get the ball to Ant. Ant maybe get something easier. Have someone shoot for the rim and try and get a layup and then steal the inbound or foul. Like those
No,
like
they don't have
inbound.
they didn't have any timeouts left.
I just like, again, it was a good look, but it's just like, I wish they would run something. You know what I mean? Like, Ant makes that, Chicago calls a timeout, and they have the last shot of the game. Like, they still might lose this game.
Yeah, I think
It's just a weird.
I actually do think
It's just weird.
with the last shot, I do think that that actually was them following the game plan, because I think the reason why it happened so quick is because they didn't want Chicago to foul.
Which is fair. I mean,
So
that's what the Spurs
if
did.
you do
That's
run
fair.
yeah, and so if you do run something, I think you run the risk of Chicago fouling, and Lord knows with this team's free throw shooting. Obviously, the minute you miss a free throw, they like you're in a tough spot.
Okay.
But one last thing on this game, I did want to.
I will take that point. Yep.
Yeah, I did want to touch on Ant's shot diet, which I think has been fine season to date, and he certainly has been. He's having the most efficient season of his career. But I did kind of go chart down his shots. So he was 1 of 8 from threes. The first 6 were solid looks, so I don't really have a huge issue there. He was 3 of 5 on layups or dunks. That stands out. The fact that Ant only got to the restricted area 5 times, and I guess I should check his free throws. I didn't go back and watch those, so I don't know how many. Okay, he shot 1 free throw, so that kind of goes to my point. Shooting 1 free throw and being 3 of 5 on layups or dunks, like that's not good enough. That he was settling all night, is what I felt like. And then so including floaters in the paint and jump shots in the paint, he was 5 of 12 in the mid range. And to shoot 12 mid rangers and 13 threes and layups, I just think is not a like, that is way too many mid rangers. I think like the mid range shot can be valuable for Ant, and we've seen it. He's even a couple of the possessions last night were solid shots in the mid range, but like for it to be half of his shots is just way too many. And I've just kind of been worried about with it. I personally don't think he gets to the rim as much. And again, it's regular season. You don't want to put miles on your body, but like 5 shots in the restricted area the entire game. Plus, and only a single free throw. Like he should be 6-7 free throws a game. I did not. It was just an overall bad game for Ant, which everyone's allowed to have. But I think like his shot diet was a reason. Like he mentioned after the game, like, well, I just wasn't making shots. And my point would probably be more like, nah, you were taking bad shots.
Yeah, the mid-range thing is weird, because I do like, if Ant's going to shoot 25 shots, like, you'd like to probably have 10 at the rim, maybe 8 at 3, and then 7 post up, like mid-range. That's probably where I'd want him to be. Like, at least a little more balanced and a little more at the rim. And he's so good at the rim this year. Like, he has gotten that swagger back where he's able to make these tough finishes. I think it just goes back to like you said, like, I just don't think they were very locked in. And I think Ant, instead of taking that extra bit of horsepower to get to the rim on some of these, he just settled for the pull up, fairly open mid range. I'm hesitant to criticize him too much on the mid range, because like he has been fine in the mid range, but like I do agree, 13, quote unquote mid-range shots is kind of, you'd like to see maybe 5 less than 13. Like, it still is one of the most inefficient shots in basketball. Like, I think when people say like Ant needs to get a mid-range game, it's more of like a change-up pitch. You don't throw a change-up 50% of the time. You throw your fastball. His fastball is getting to the rim still. His slider is his 3, and then his changeup should be that post game, which I think that would be my criticism. The other thing that's just weird with me with Ant's shot diet is like he never gets corner threes. Like, he's in the corner a lot when Julius has the ball or in some of these actions. But like, even last night, he shoots 7 above the break threes and 1 corner 3. Like, I wish I knew how to get him. And maybe that's just because this team doesn't really have like a point guard per se, that you have like Ant in one corner, Jaden in the other corner, Dante and Nas up at the top, and like you're not really looking Ant's way in the far corner wherever he is. But like, it's such an it's just such an efficient shot that I wish there was a little bit more of the corner threes in his diet specifically. But again, he's a 40% 3-point shooter this year. Like, at this point, we're just kind of nitpicking on the, like, how could he be a 42% 3-point shooter? Which is, I say this often, like over on my pod, of just like, it's hard because we watch him so, like, we scrutinize so much about him, and he plays 40 minutes a game, and it's like, there are just these really weird things that if he just did, he would elevate himself into that Shea, Jokic, Luka conversation instead of the next kind of Shea, Lukic, Shea, Luka, Jokic and Giannis. I don't want to exclude Giannis, but like, he would elevate himself into that like foursome of these are the dudes. But unfortunately, these things, like not having a lot of corner threes, having 50% of your shots be mid-range in certain games, the defensive lapses kind of prevent him from being, from going from the 6th or 7th best player in the world to the 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. I think we've complained about this last 2 games enough. Let's try to have some. Certainly, I've sounded more crabby than you, but let's dive into some trades. Just because the Bulls seem like a potential trade partner. Trey Jones would be a logical partner, a logical person to bring in. He's on $8 million this year, $8 million next year, so you'd really just be giving up Rob Dillingham in that one. I think that can make a lot of sense. Finding someone. So last night he scores 12 points. He's been scoring double-digit points per game this year. Like, I think finding a scoring guard off the bench could really help this team. So I think that trade would make a lot of sense, especially if it's just Rob Dillingham going out. That would be a solid trade. Ayo Dosunmu, another guy. I don't know. Trey just seems like a better player at this point. And then Kobe White would be another name. That would necessitate sending Mike Conley out, which I don't think is impossible in terms of what the Wolves want to do. But it just makes it more difficult. Like, do you want to trade Mike to Chicago of all places?
I think if you're getting Giannis, Mike is on the table. I think if it's for Kobe White, they'd rather just keep Mike. Like, I just
I don't think the Wolves are trading for Giannis, but I get your point.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think Mike is like off the, if they're like, we can get one of the top 20 players in the league without giving up Julius, Jaden, Rudy, or Nas, but Mike has to be in it, then like, I think Mike is in it. But like, if you're looking at Kobe White, and kind of my pushback with a lot of these trades, and I don't disagree with you, I think Trey Jones would be great, but like, my pushback with a lot of these trades are like, Dante is one of the most important players on this Wolves team. Come playoffs, he's going to play 40 minutes a game. Ant is going to play 42 to 44. We'll say 42. And Jaden's going to play 42. That leaves you about 20 minutes in the backup guard and wing spot. if you're trading for Kobe White, he's probably getting 18 to all 20 of those minutes. Jalen probably goes out of the rotation. Nas probably gets all of the post minutes, and then you have a 7-man rotation. You feel probably pretty good about that 7-man rotation, but like Mike just means so much to this team behind the scenes. I mean, I think he is a big reason Ant has taken a playmaking leap this year. And also, like, he took hard ways that you like if you ship Mike Conley off to Chicago, the next veteran that signs here on a 2-year deal, I feel like Mike is the caliber of like respected player that could sour some people in the league and even sour the locker room a little bit because he is still that kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi figure in the locker room. I don't see it. And maybe you can, sign Johnny Juzang to like a above the or above the veterans minimum, pair him with Rob to get close enough to Kobe White's salary and send those two out with like a couple seconds and you can still get him. But then at that point, it's again, like you're giving up Rob Dillingham, who is an asset, multiple seconds for a guy that at most is going to play 20 minutes in a playoff game, where right now you can throw Bones out for 12 and Mike out for 8, and it's maybe a 15% drop off from what Kobe White could get you in 20. But the Trey Jones one I think is interesting because that's another one. Then you have 3 point guards that you can kind of trial run for the rest of the season and see who pops. And then you can go with 2 of them going into the postseason. I mean, I've been kind of more interested in the backup big role of like a change of pace. Let's say Rudy is just getting played off the floor. Like who could we get in that's a little more switchable, things like that. But Johan's been...
I just think that can be Berenger.
That's what I was going to say. Johan through 4 games in 3 minutes has been fine. They have 2 weeks left before the deadline. Maybe they can kind of evaluate that more. So I've been more in the just gunner off the bench. Get like a Quentin Grimes, get a guy that can just, you throw him out there for a 6-minute shift in the first half. And if he's hot that night, you roll him into the 3rd and 4th quarter in that role. But it admittedly, there isn't a lot of like game changing gunners out there that you're looking at, right?
Yeah, I mean, ideally it would have been Terrence Shannon Jr., right? That's kind of what the ideal was in the preseason. And
could you imagine how much
need to give
the vibes would be if TJ was just good and Rob took Mike's job? Like if Rob was just ready and took Mike's job like they were hoping he would do, like problem solved. If TJ was just good, problem solved. Like we're talking about this team probably the exact same way because they're still going to do this dumb stuff, but like there's not really these holes.
Yeah, and between Mike and Rob and TJ, like that's just 3 guys that have performed below what the preseason thoughts were. And yeah, I do think like if they trade for someone, thinking about like what the postseason would look like, and I agree. So in that sense, I don't think like if you're trading Mike out, I think they could trade Mike in the sense of like they would just need to make sure like he was good with it, or like that if they trade him to the Bulls buy him out and he gets to go where he wants to go. I do think that's possible, but there's value to having him around. But I will say like by the playoffs, I don't think Mike should be in the playoff rotation. And like you mentioned, if all the starters are playing 40 minutes and Nas is obviously going to take up all the any single minute where Rudy and Julius are on the court or off the court,
I would argue
Nas
that
will be in there.
Might be playing 3 a lot more by then too. Like there's
so
going to be a
maybe he takes
30-minute guy in the playoffs off the bench, like
right. So I think that leaves like 16 minutes, and even like I think if Nas doesn't take those minutes, Jalen Clark will take them. But like that leaves about 16 minutes of guard, and I think like that's who they should be targeting, someone that can play 16 minutes, and that's kind of where I think like Trey Jones fits into that, especially like if you're trading out Rob, like you mentioned, you'd ideally not like to do it for just a pure expiring contract. Well, Trey Jones is under contract for next season. So that's why I think that trade would make the most sense. But I think anytime you're discussing trades, focusing in on one player specifically is always tough because you don't know what Chicago wants, you don't know what the Wolves want, or you don't know what else is out there.
And even like Chicago, like, I don't know, Trey Jones has been good for them. Like, maybe they don't want to trade him, and we're just all kind of assuming that they are. Like, Kobe White makes sense that he's on the block. That dude's going to get paid $20 million next year. Like, if I'm Chicago, I don't want to pay Kobe White $20 million. Like, DeSumo makes sense because he's kind of been a disappointment and might make some more money next year. Like, yeah, it's like right now, I think their playoff rotation is probably their starting five. Nas is getting like 30. Clark gets like 10 to 12. And then like Mike plays 5 to 8 minutes. Hopefully. I'll be honest though, if they're playing Mike 20 minutes in the playoffs, like something has gone wrong. Like,
no.
I don't think that's their plan. I think right now the reason we're seeing Mike play a lot of minutes is because he is like literally the only guy on the team that's like, hey guys, everything's going bad. Like, let's try and fix this. But he's just not the same player he was last year, so he can't really fix it as well as he did last year at times. But like the value of having, you know, one guy saying the house is on fire as opposed to having no guys out there saying the house is on fire. But come playoffs, they're all going to be locked in. The house isn't going to be on fire as much, like, hopefully. So I even think like if the Wolves, if you got truth serum into them, if you got truth serum into Mike Conley, he'd probably be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be playing in the playoffs. Again, it's not an inspiring list of like, I just went down and like the 12 million and under guys out there. I mean, it's not very inspiring. Like TJ McConnell, why are the Pacers trading him? Halliburton will be back next year. Like, Duncan Robinson, like, does that do something for you? Oh, he makes 26 this year, so never mind. That's out. Buddy Hield.
Nope.
If Golden State's like, we want to get rid of Buddy Hield for some, like Kyle Anderson, I still think is probably my betting favorite to end up back on the Wolves.
Buyout. Let's go.
But yeah, like Quentin Grimes, Kelly Oubre, Fontecchio. Like, there's not a lot of great like bench options at that point either. They'd have to kind of get right, like with the Nikhil trade, where they take a chance on somebody that they just have a lot of faith in, which that's hard to do, right?
Yep, absolutely. I'll kind of close this out with what Mike said at practice about kind of he mentioned like during the Jazz game, he noticed like a lot of the other players, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, like feeling like, oh, we're playing good. We're this is going well. And Mike's like, no, it's not. This is not sustainable. Like this is in trouble. And obviously and on the court, it's been a tough season for Mike, and clearly his shot just looks out of whack. So yeah, it's a tough, but maybe there's value in keeping him around, and more likely, I just think it's going to be hard to find a player of that around that salary that fits, but we'll see. Andrew, anything to plug with your coverage of the Wolves?
Oh gosh, articles on Zone Coverage still coming out every Wednesday and Saturday. Post-game live stream podcast thing still goes right after every game. Home games, it's a little delayed because I'm in the locker room doing stuff. And what else do I do? Gophers women basketball. They've been fun. Beat Oregon. They're kind of in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten, but if they finish out 500, they're probably a tournament team. So start watching them. That's all I got.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming on. Well, for Andrew, I'm Ryan. Thank you everyone for listening. Go Wolves.